Greetings from Nairobi, Kenya and around the world. My name is Maureen Mombi and welcome to the Global Perspective Show, where we give you an insight of the global stories that affect the public's interest in the technology, business and art sector. But first, a look at the global stories. Rhino population for a while now globally, even with efforts from all Pejita Conservancy, dedication of providing 24 armed security to keep the white rhino safe. Well, the last male white rhino Sudan dies in Kenya due to age-related complication, leaving only 2 females, his daughter and grandmother, and its species are now considered to be extinct in the wild. Gun violence has been a major threat to national schools globally, following a recent incident that happened in Parkland, Florida, US, where 17 students were killed. 3,000 schools across US country took to the streets to pay tribute to the victims and rally against gun violence. British data analytics firm Cambridge Analytica, which is known for harvesting personal data about Facebook users, has been accused of being one of the biggest breaches data of privacy of Facebook users, since the company has unauthorized access to tens of millions of these individuals. Among the 3 global stories, I am going to talk about one major global story on Cambridge Analytica. Well, in Kenya, Facebook has 5 million active users that may risk their privacy being invaded. According to The Guardian in 2014, the company acquired 50 million Facebook users' profile for their terms of service. Well, I invite you to comment on our Twitter account at Maureen_Mombi Global Perspective News and tell us your thoughts about this. Whether you think the matter is about privacy or you think that the company invaded on the privacy of individuals and how you think it achieved that. Remember to use our hashtag at Global Perspective News. Looking at social media, at Wamboi_Amboi says, I think it did invade on privacy. Our data should not be used without our consent. But before we go into the comments, Kevin Mukuche, one of our correspondents, is on ground and will give us an in-depth look into this issue.
Yes, thank you, Mumbi, in studio. I'm actually outside the Silver Spring Hotel, where the Cambridge Analytica's Facebook story has created quite a lot of buzz, Maureen, and people have different sentiments. Actually, we're wondering in Kenya, does this actually affect us? Because we're on Facebook actually a lot of the day, and we don't know how big this actually has affected us. Mark Zuckerberg has claimed that this has affected 87 million users whose data has been mined, whose data has been breached. So I want to get a few sentiments of people of what they think about the story, how this story has affected their day-to-day lives. Stay with us, Mumbi.
I think the most important thing for us to understand first is Kenya has very minimal restrictions on data privacy. Article 31D says privacy in communication should not be infringed. You know, that shows you that there are no other laws that have been put in place to expound on what data restriction is or what data privacy is in the first place. So no, it did not infringe on our privacy laws because one, when you're on social media, you're vulnerable. You present your information knowing very well that millions of people are going to access your information, your data, whether it's through a third party or whether it's through SafeWeb or otherwise. So I think for me, Kenya, currently the Ministry of ICT is working on coming up with the telecommunication laws, and data privacy is going to be given the utmost importance, because now they know there are companies like Cambridge Analytica, that can actually infringe on privacy of millions of people. Like in Kenya, about 50 million people's data was sieved through. So there is need for data privacy laws to be put in place.
I think there's 2 ways to look at it. One, I definitely believe it's not right to use anyone's data without their consent. However, again, I think what Cambridge Analytica represents is a new way of handling elections. So I'll take that on first and I'll tell you why I don't believe it's the right thing. Where we're moving to in terms of elections, data is very key because it helps you reach a target audience more easily as opposed to waiting for rallies and so on and so forth. However, I think it also exposes a gap that we have here in Kenya, the fact that we don't have any laws that look at such. But it's definitely wrong to use anyone's consent, anyone's data, sorry, without their consent. One, because maybe they would not want you to use that. For example, if someone doesn't want to vote in the first place, using the data is wrong and definitely does not help the situation in any way. So you could find very many court cases if there were laws that actually would bring that about.
This story has been a very big story. You know, Facebook claims that an application was created and this was able to use your browsing history. This one knows your friends, what your friends like, and it has been able to mine all of that data, and this data was compiled and has been used, or has allegedly been used, to create success for some people's campaigns.
So Kevin, do you think that Kenyans should stop giving their information on social media? And what do you think is the way forward?
So I think we need to go back to the law and say what the law prescribes for such an issue. Indeed, if any laws of ours were infringed, the Communication Authority should tell us the way forward. And if nothing was done, then the hula baloo should end and let's just go back to talking about development and sensible politics. That's my opinion. And I am Kevin Mukuche for Global Perspective News.
More comments on our social media at Derek Rees says that we have laws on social media. So does this mean that we do not follow our own laws? On our show today, we have different people who will be talking about these particular issues.
My name is Derek Rees.
So do you do makeup?
No, I don't.
What do you think about girls who do makeup?
Personally, I think girls who do makeup do it because they have insecurities. Because it's like a norm into society, not to fit into.
As people's data, you need to inform them so they can consent, rather than having or taking this information and harvesting it and using it for your own purposes. So what they did was essentially take advantage of the privacy settings that Facebook had at the time, and then they went in to harvest these people's information, and then they built profiles about them. And the approach they took, I think, is quite unethical, because they essentially asked, they had people who installed an application agree to some things which they didn't fully understand, in which ended up with their information being harvested and being used to build profiles that were then used to target them with ads. So while these are things that happen all the time on various platforms, like literally anywhere where there's an ad involved, I think the way the data was being used, especially to achieve a certain political purpose, is a challenge, because it represents like a breach of trust on the side of these companies, and when it comes to their terms and conditions.
You can still be all natural, just apply Parlon or Vaseline or lotion, and you can still look good. You don't have to hide your face behind all that foundation.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
I think a lot has been said about Cambridge Analytica since they were busted, or their work was busted by Channel 4 of the UK, and the information reached us that they were involved in the general elections of 2017 in Kenya, where the officials say that they worked for President Uhuru Kenyatta and they influenced his win, to which I do have contrary beliefs, but mostly important for us is how they breached privacy protocols on social media to access user data without consent of the people on social media.
First of all, when we consume content, it represents like something that we believe in or something that we trust. And especially when it comes to social media, we tend to believe that our actions online and our actions offline are different, but a lot of times they're not.
And Parliament has been trying to come up with data protection laws such that if country or citizens were to sue Cambridge, they would use such laws to mount a suit in the court of law. But having said all that, they went against the constitutional rights of the Kenyans whose rights, whose information was used on social media for election purposes.
Cambridge Analytica at some point were able to get that data through a different company in the States. So what that company did, it was a research company whereby they created personality quiz apps. So what happened is that you click on the app, then you register through, you log in through the app using your Facebook account. So that was one of the ways you are able to get Facebook profiles data through that quiz personality app. So what happens is that immediately that you log in through the app, it is able to collect your data and also your friends in your Facebook account. You can do that is you go to your Facebook settings. There's an option whereby you have users, apps and website. You go click on it and you deactivate that option. So that does not allow, for example, for people who use different apps like the social apps like Tinder or Badoo, where they request you to log in using your Facebook account. Now that wouldn't be possible to happen, because immediately that you, for example, allow Tinder or Badoo, you log in using your Facebook account, those companies at some point may be willing to sell your data to different partners around the world. So that is how your information.
Nakapolota.